Dr. Lal's presentation from a longer program that has yet to be released. That longer program also includes another presentation by Dr. William Keepin, which I hope we will have an opportunity to hear at another time. Before introducing our main speaker, let me briefly go over the format. Dr. Lal's presentation will run for about 20 minutes. After his presentation, I will offer a commentary, and then we will hear from another commentator, Dr. Stefan Berg, and then we can turn to your comments. So please write your comments in the chat box, and please keep them concise. Our UPF National President, Dr. Michael Jenkins, will offer concluding remarks. Now let me introduce our presenter, Dr. Lal. Dr. Rattan Lal, PhD, is Distinguished Professor of Soil Science and Director of the CFAES Dr. Rattan Lal Center for Carbon Management and Sequestration at Ohio State University. Dr. Lal has mentored over 120 graduate students and 60 postdoctoral researchers. He has over 2,700 publications to his credit, including journal articles and book chapters and other written work. And he's received numerous awards for his research on sustainable agriculture, on soil carbon sequestration, and also on climate resilient agriculture. Dr. Lal has also served as president for various national and international organizations, including the International Soil Tillage Research Organization, the Soil Science Society of America, and indeed many more. Dr. Lal's presentation is entitled Soil, Spirituality, Science, and Religion. So now let us listen to Dr. Lal's presentation together. It'll take me just a minute to set up. Please bear with me. Just checking. Okay. Here we go.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be with you this afternoon and talk about soil, spirituality, science, and religion. And at the end, I'm going to come back to some policy issues which might link all of those together and lead, hopefully, to sustainable use of the finite resources. I will attempt to describe each one of these terms and what their interconnectivity is, and I'll begin with soil. Soil is a complex network of life and death, simultaneously universal and unique. It is source of 95% of the food humans consume and a habitat for 25% of all biodiversity. Soil is the building block of all life, especially of the ever-growing and increasingly affluent human population. Soil is also a living entity. Therefore, as a living entity, it has rights. And I'll come back to that in a moment. There's a difference between dirt and soil. They're not the same thing. Dirt refers to an unclean matter, especially when in contact with a person's clothes, skin, or possession. Thus the term dirty clothes. Dirt or dust, when inhaled, can cause illness and adversely affect human health and well-being. On the other hand, soil is an upper layer of the earth in which plants grow and is a habitat of 25% of all terrestrial biodiversity. Therefore, soil is not dirt. Then there's a relationship between spirit and soil. Spirit is the non-physical part of a person and which is the seat of emotion and character. Soul is the spiritual part of the person that some religions believe continues to exist in some form even after their body has died. And these qualities are regarded as forming the definitive or typical elements in the character of a person, nation, a group, or in the thoughts and attitude of a particular period. Then there's a connection between spirit, soil, and agriculture. The spirits of soil are spirits of agriculture that makes grain yield well and cows give much milk. Thus, the spirits of soil are the guardian spirits of farmers. The spirits of soil constitute one of the four elements: earth, water, wind, and fire. And I'll come back to that in a moment later in this discussion. Then come from dust to dust. The book of Genesis states that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. In the context of soil science, however, as I stated first, it would be pertinent to state that we are soil, and to soil we shall return. But I guess that's a distinction that scientific community of soil makes. Indeed, there's a major difference between dust and soil, as is between soil and dirt. The Hebrew scriptures, the first human Adam is created from Adamah, the soil. Thus, humans are of the soil and from the soil. Thus, what we do to our soil, we do to ourselves. And I think that is a lesson that many extinct civilizations have learned in a very hard way. There's a strong nexus between soil and life. Charles Kellogg of USDA stated essentially all life depends upon the soil. There can be no life without soil and no soil without life. They have evolved together. I have taken the liberty to go one step further, and is the rhizosphere, and that the root soil interface at nanoscale. Technically, we call it the rhizosphere, is the only site in the universe where the death is resurrected into life. And that's a very important part to know. Therefore, soil and life are intricately interconnected. Soil supports life through symbiotic interaction, collaboration, and competition for a wide range of partners. Humans must support these partners so that soil can grow. The symbiotic partnership between soil and humanity is essential to strengthen the foundation of our lives in the landscapes through strengthening the conviviality and the life of soil itself. Conviviality refers to the quality of being friendly or making others feel happy and welcome. A friendly or agreeable quality. And that is essentially what a soil is, a healthy soil, that is. Then there is a Gaia hypothesis, the Gaia theory by Jim Lovelock. And he said the Gaia theory that living Earth or the Earth's biosphere is a proof that Earth is a living entity. Remember I said soil contains 25% of biodiversity, so it's a living entity. Then there's a relationship between soil and human health. Since soil is the basis for all human life, our only hope for a healthy world rests on re-establishing the harmony in the soil we have disrupted by our methods of agronomy. All of life will be either healthy or unhealthy according to the healthiness of the soil itself. The health of soil, plants, animal, human, environment, and the planet is one and indivisible. I have a book that we edited on that topic. And I'm writing one at the moment, co-editing with a colleague who's a specialist in cancer, and the title is Food is Medicine. And good food comes from a healthy soil. Therefore, healthy soil produces food which serves as a medicine. Another way, medical remedies and food are both for sustaining human life and maintaining health. Thus, human health depends on receiving wholesome food in a good environment. Therefore, soil properties control the metabolism of plant, animal, and human cells. Thus, most illness may be caused by loss of harmony symbiosis, interconnectivity between the elements that are essential for human life, including the air, water, and food. Therefore, the balance of elements in the soil, and in more particularly 17 micronutrients, is essential basis of a good food, and therefore is a very critical importance to human health. There are many religious beliefs that talk about it. Let's begin with Judaism. I already briefly described it. The word homo is derived from the Latin word humus, or the decomposed organic matter in soil, which is the essence of all terrestrial life. Therefore, the Hebrew phrase tikkun olam means repairing or restoring the land. Hinduism, it states that Kshati, Jal, Pavak, Gagan, Samira, soil, water, space, energy, and air. And the next phrase is Panch Tattva Adam Sharira. Human body is made of these 5 elements. Therefore, don't desecrate them. In Sikhism, it says very precisely, Paun Guru, Pani Pita, Mata Dharta Mahat. Wind is Guru, water is Father, Mother Earth, Mata Dhart Mahat, Mother Earth the greatest. And that something links up soil, water, and air, how important they are to the human being. The Gurbani, which is the Sikhism holiest book, this is the opening stanza, Pavan Guru, Pani Pita, Mata Dharta Mahat. Buddhism, one should not break even the branch of a tree that has given one shelter. And then Christianity, the word Adam is derived from the Hebrew word Adama, meaning the soil, the human made of soil. Greek, the daughter of the earth goddess Gaia, named Themis, goddess of law, and her descendant Demeter, the goddess of agriculture and fertility. You recognize many names of colleagues and friends among that paragraph. The Roman, the earth goddess Tellus, was related to the goddess of fertility and harvest, Sayers, that the word cereals come from, and named Matre Terra, Terra Matre. Islam, he created the man of clay like the potters. Surah Al-Rahman, verse 14. We made from water every living thing. Quran 25, verse 54. Do not overuse water if you are even on a running river. Prophet Muhammad. Khalil Gibran, many of you may know, a Lebanese philosopher of the US here. Trees are poems in Rabaiyat. The earth writes upon the sky, and we fell them down and then turn them into paper so that we may record our emptiness. Some example of how religion has really given very high importance to nature, or to soil, water, air. Then, of course, the soil and civilization. Soil is intricately connected with the culture, livelihood, and civilization of community. Thus, degradation of soil can lead to collapse of the culture, civilization, livelihood, and well-being of the community. Many ancient past civilization has gone that way. Increase in human population from 1 billion in 1800 to 2.5 in 1950 to 8 billion 2022 has pushed agricultural system to exceed some limits, and therefore use soil merely as a medium of production and disregard the inherent sustainable productivity of the soil, which eventually has many strong ramifications to environment and human being. Thus, the ethical or truly living relationship between soil and humanity has been broken and must be reestablished. That was David Montgomery in his book. Ecological restoration and spirituality are important aspects in adopting actual practices of restoring degraded soil. Humans are in important ways reconnected to soil. By the way, 30% of all soil of the world, as of the most recent report of IPCC, as well as of the soil from Global Soil Partnership, has verified that statement that 1/3 of all soils are degraded, and degradation increasing by the day. Soil restoration practices reconnect humans to nature in a spiritual, moral sense by performing sacred work, by serving as a form of public witness, and by strengthening spiritual moral experiences within participants, the soil restoration, that is reclamation of degraded soil, is not only a promising contemporary environmental practice, but also as a burgeoning public spiritual practice as well. Regarding animating soils and transforming human soil affections, it's critical to alter the imaginaries of soils as inert matter subjected to human use, and reanimating the life within them as a critical strategy of transforming contemporary human soil affections, and by developing a sense of shared aliveness. As soils are reanimated and enlivened, a sense of human soil interconnectivity and close interdependency is intensified. This strategy of soil aliveness leads to a sense of earthy connectedness that animates and re-affects material world, and a sense of more than human community in those involved in reanimation of soil. Therefore, protecting the soil can be considered as an act of worship. Humans are formed from soil, and thus we have a sacred responsibility. Sacred. I'll come back to legal part in a moment, to protect and care of the soil. Thus came the concept land ethics. The land ethics was proposed by Aldo Leopold in 1949 and stated that land ethics is a theory in which a conceptual framework of cooperation between people is explained to cover soil, water, plants, and animals together, referred to as the land. Here, notice the distinction between the land and soil. Soil is a part of land. Other parts are water, plants, animal, and people, of course, are part of the land. What is the price of natural resources? Chief Seattle states that very vividly. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? The idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every clearing, and every humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. Nature in Upanishad, that's my last part I want to describe before going to the legal part. Our habitat is viewed as an abode of experience. Nature, that's called Prakriti, provides this physical and biological setting that all sentient beings use. Hence, it must not be ruthlessly exploited. Thus, humans must take a spiritual journey from non-being to being, from darkness to light, from death to deathlessness. Deathlessness is vimoksha. That is nirvana, if you want to call it that way. Then what is the karma? That the law of moral order. This is relevant to the question, how is the occurrence of a phenomenon to be explained? It is argued that no event in the natural or moral context is possible without dependence on some other factors. In this context, A.L. Basham observed, we cannot escape the law of karma any more than we can escape the law of gravity. What is karma and reincarnation? Karma is the law of action and reaction which governs life, and karma is a natural law of life, just as gravity is a natural law of matter. Karma refers to totality of our actions and their concomitant reactions in this and all previous lives, all of which determine our future. That's Swami Vivekananda. In the Upanishad tradition, the ex nihilo, that's the Latin translation in a way, it is stated, nastu vidyata shav, or from no being, being cannot arise. From no being, being cannot arise. And that's a very important concept related to evolution and involution. What was the seed? It was the same as the tree. All the possibilities of future tree are in that seed. All the possibility of future man are in the little baby. All the possibility of any future life are in the germ. What is this? The ancient philosophers of India call it involution. We find then that every evolution presupposes an involution. Nothing can be evolved which is not already there. As such, evolution does not come out of zero. Then where does it come from? From previous evolution. The child is the man involved, and the man is the child evolved. The seed is the tree involved, and the tree is the seed evolved. All the possible of life are in the germ. I don't think Darwin knew what I'm going to explain here. The Vedic theory of evolution and of Aksaha, Prana, and Sankhya philosophy is exactly what Darwin said, but I don't think Darwin knew it. Patanjali speaks of one species being changed into another, one species being changed to another by the infilling of nature. Jatyantra pranam prakirtya purata. One life form changes into another until it reaches perfection. That is that Sanskrit phrase which Darwin called evolution. However, Patanjali differs from the Darwin in the explanation. Patanjali explains of this evolution is spiritual, and that's the difference. That is where the theory of karma comes in. They linked up theory of evolution with that of karma. That brings me to the legal part, rights of soil. Just as there are universal rights of humans and the rights of animals, there has to be rights of soil and rights of nature. Being the essence of all life, soil must also have the rights to be protected, restored, thrive, and managed judiciously. And rights of soil is not based on economic benefits, but on protecting and restoring the soil for the greater good of the planet rather than just for the humanity. For the greater good of the planet, humans are part of that. We have reached already, according to some soil scientists, peak soil. You hear about peak oil, peak phosphorus, peak land, peak water, peak soil. And there's a certain amount of soil that's required for every living being, 0.05 hectare per capita. And in many countries, we do not have 0.05 hectare per capita, especially many countries in South Asia. That leads to soil refugees, and that leads to serious problem of considering peak soil, the endangered soil. We indeed have extinct soil, but nobody talks about it. That means, do we need a Soil Protection Act? We have a Clean Air Act of 1967 of EPA. We have a Clean Water Act of 1972. How can you have clean air and clean water if there's no healthy soil? And we do not have healthy soil. And I hope the next Farm Bill might consider that option. That brings us to the concept of soil stewardship. Soil stewardship and care must be embedded in every fruit and vegetable eaten, in each grain ground into the bread consumed, in every cup of water used, in every breath of air inhaled, in every scenic landscape cherished. That's the stewardship. And that is what we have to teach to our primary school children. They should know where our food comes from. They should feel in their home garden, the school, what a healthy, good soil looks like, where all the facilities of life come from. Should the price of food then reflect any degradation of these entities caused by misuse and mismanagement? I think that is something to be considered. But going back to Sanskrit Shantra, the mantra that I can quote on this one would be that healthy soil equal to healthy diet, equal to healthy people, equal to healthy ecosystem, and equal to healthy planetary processes. And Einstein, not Darwin, said it very clearly that science without religion is lame and religion without science is blind. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me come back if I stop the share properly. Thank you indeed, Dr. Lal, for your stimulating presentation. Let's appreciate that together, if we may. So, for my commentary, I'd like to begin by thinking back to the IAAP webinar 2 weeks ago, if any of you happen to be there, on climate change, from big picture to potential crisis. For that program, we invited 2 distinguished scientists and a well-informed commentator in order to deal with the thorny issue of climate change. And it turned out that they had quite different viewpoints and analysis of the climate situation. So we asked the question, what can we learn from this difference? Not about what to think, but about how to think and how to weigh different opinions constructively or different views. For me, the main takeaway from that program was that in all discussions related to the environment, we need to pay attention to 2 things: attitudes and actions, beginning with the personal. Now today, Dr. Lau's presentation has given us a marvelous example of beneficial attitudes toward the earth, toward the whole ecosystem, and also, by the way, beneficial attitudes toward one another. And also he referred to practical actions and practical disciplines that we can undertake for the sake of soil on a local level, which is also part of the general healing of the earth and the general healing of the spirit. My own training is from Harvard University's in comparative religion and Asian philosophy, so I want to make a couple of comments on Dr. Lau's presentation from that angle. In his presentation, he weaves together 2 fields of life that for many of us are often kept strictly separate, namely the scientific and the religious philosophical. And he, as we saw, he brought in a whole range of philosophical traditions and religious traditions from around the world, with particular emphasis, I would say, on Hindu tradition. I especially enjoyed his opening remark that soil is simultaneously unique and universal. And if we think about it, there's the soil all over the world has qualities in common and also are connected, actually literally connected to each other all around the world. In the same way, we human beings also are unique and we're also universal around the world. We have much more in common with each other than we have differences, but we tend to emphasize the differences. Our bodies, just like the soil, are really quite similar to the point that you can interchange body parts much more easily than we would have thought. And it doesn't matter whether the person is a Democrat or a Republican, or from what country they come from, or what ethnicity, any of those things. On the whole, those body parts are universal. So I think that we can learn something very helpful from this for one of UPF's core concepts, which is interdependence. What is the meaning? What is the real substance of interdependence? And so Dr. Lau's rhapsody, we can say, his analysis of the soil and its significance in our life teaches us many things about interdependence. Interdependence between our human community and the soil that on which it's based, in which we're rooted. The example of Adam being from the soil, and we can find that in traditions around the world, but also how we're interconnected with one another. Part of the concept of interdependence leads to the issue about ownership. What is ownership? And in what sense is ownership shared? We saw from the quotation from Chief Seattle that the idea that we can own something, we can own the air, we can own the sky, we can own the rivers, we can own the land, seems to be incomprehensible from a wider human point of view. Those were all there. We belong to the land, not the land belonging to us, as Chief Joseph says. So then how do we think about the question of ownership? for those familiar with unification thought, the idea is co-ownership, that any ownership is co-ownership because of this quality of the unique and also the universal. All ownership is connected to one another. And if we think about it in that way, then we can outgrow our present way of thinking about it as though land were simply a resource to be exploited and to be used, and the fate of that land would be decided by a certain owner under the laws of a certain country, and so on. Those are all in place, that's true, but we understood from Dr. Lau's presentation that there are also rights of the earth that need to be taken into account, that are not just subsidiary to the economic value of that land for some extrinsic purpose, but actually come from its intrinsic value, the same way we talk about human rights as coming from our intrinsic value together and also one by one. And so it seems to me that Dr. Lau's presentation has implications in a number of different directions, partly in terms of the environment. And he's involved in, we heard a little bit about soil sequestration. But more than that action, the question is the attitude behind it. And this presentation helps to educate our attitudes in a beneficial way and to reconnect us with the soil, to reconnect us with the earth. That's why the significance of the Gaia hypothesis. And by some, the Gaia hypothesis has also been connected to the long history of traditions envisioning the earth as mother, the earth as feminine, the earth as goddess. And so to the extent that we've grown apart, we forgot our organic relationship to our mother. This is also a call for us to recover that relationship as part of our spiritual development and spiritual health. That in turn feeds the attitudes that for conservation and other constructive activities to heal the earth, which is our common home and our common heritage. And so these both aspects go together very nicely. One of the core concepts within Hindu philosophy is this pair of prakriti and the kind of substance nature, which Dr. Lau referred to, and then the other one is purusa, the kind of independent spirit, and the relationship between the independent spirit and the commonality of substance. This commonality of substance deserves more credit than it often receives in many cultures, and I think in our modern culture as well. So those are some of the main things that I see in this presentation. There's an interesting kind of benefit to the titles of soil and soul. You know, if you think about soul and soil, what's the difference between them? They're intimately connected with each other, as we've heard. And actually, there's just the difference in the word of one letter, right? S-O-U-L and S-O-I-L. So in that sense, the difference between soul and soil is the difference between you and I. So how much difference is there between you and I? If we want to count difference, well, there's all sorts of difference. We're talking about uniqueness. But if you want to count similarity, in the 99.999, we share, all of us together, and indeed with our earth. So we have a lot to share together. And I want to turn now to some of the comments that are coming up, and this is good. I'm going to turn first to Dr. Stefan Berg, since I already knew he was here, and then I will come through to James Mooney next. And I'll try to do my best to do it that way, or actually our moderator will help us. So Stefan Berg, can you take the floor?
Well, I certainly can. I really appreciate your comments there, Dr. Selover. I was ready to comment on Dr. Lal's presentation and Soil and Soul. Yet you added another chapter. Thank you so much. I have to say I really like what he said about the reanimation of the soil, not soil, and having been able to produce a fantastic feat of food for the 8 billion people we have today, and causing less starvation than we had in ages past. That's really a great progress on one level. But he advocated to bring in, as you said, with this life into the process and care, and all these quotes used from the scriptures, religions, and Native American commentary and viewpoint. And I found this comment about Darwin's evolutionary theory interesting, that it was like an external mirror to involution, and also he used Patanjali, who's a collection of sutras from about 2,000 years ago, which he said were very similar to Darwin's thought, with the one caveat that the sutras were about spiritual evolution, not external or material or evolution like Darwin focused on. So it's interesting. We are kind of in a swing on climate here, and of course climate, we usually think about stuff that goes on in the air, but walking on the earth is important. And to add in that respect and gratitude in the food production, so whatever we eat can become healing, have healing qualities, and then we can also become alive human beings. He kind of gave a little warning there at a lot of cultures who didn't do that or became extinct. So, and especially I found this interesting as we are all coming out of the COVID scare of the last few years, where we tried to kill everything. Hand sanitizers and stay away from other people, nature, hide out in our rooms, in our apartments, doing stuff online, and have food delivered to us. I mean, it's just like we were really on the other side of this integration with nature. And it's interesting, maybe as within, so it is without. If my room is dirty, well, maybe I have a lot of debris inside of myself too. It always peace starts with me. Whatever I want outside, I should go inside and find it and unearth it. No pun there. But anyway, so I guess this, in the vein of Dr. Selover, we were talking about apps. He talked about one aspect of the three pillars, so to say, of the ideas. I like to mention absolute values. And there is value to the soil, and there's absolute value. Yeah, there's value. And the more I add to it, the more it reflects back to me. I am born in Sweden, and they have something called common man's law there, that everybody can go everywhere and camp anywhere and pick berries anywhere. You just need to have a little bit, it's kind of understood that people have some kind of care and concern about nature. You don't destroy stuff, and you can't put up a tent in somebody's private garden, but if you're a little bit further away, it's okay, So that is some kind of value of nature, or value of other people that's built into that society. And now I'm living in Arizona, and nature is very different here down in the Phoenix area. And I understand very well what Dr. Lal said with the dust or dirt, because sometimes you look around and you wonder, that's the dust storm coming in. Is it alive or not? And there are a lot of people are putting up solar panel areas here out in nature, but actually there are small flowers everywhere. There are rabbit holes, and there are this and that. This actually, I found that even though at my first inspection it was kind of not so much life here, it's actually life also here, even though there's not so much rain. So values.
I would say the same thing, excuse me, just that here in Las Vegas, we also often feel, that it's very barren land. And I found some rabbit holes and a bunch of things growing. Could I interrupt you a little bit, Dr. Berg, so we can bring in a couple of other commentators?
No, I was finished, and you were right on time.
I see.
Thank you.
All right.
You are amazing.
Okay, James Mooney, please. You need to unmute. There we go.
I really appreciated Stefan's thinking and his thoughts that he shared with us all. And I have seen so many different presentations about religious and spiritual things, but this is off the charts. I cannot believe what I just experienced, where you have a dialogue of respect for science and for the indigenous people. And that has, to me, has been one of the challenges that the human condition has had to, or has to overcome, is that separation. Instead of separating, merge those things. It's just, I mean, when Einstein made his statement that science is nothing unless it's spiritual aspect included. And I mean, this presentation is so valuable. I cannot extend it. I'd like to add a couple things that that may even shine more light on it. To all the indigenous cultures around the world, whether it's Siberia, Peru, North America, Polynesia, the earth and air is considered their temple. And all religions have blossomed from the indigenous spirituality. And instead of now religions are actually a representation of culture. And all of these religions, and one of the things that Michael Jenkins is doing with this organization is bringing respect and honor of the differences of all these religions, which is actually cultures. The spirituality is all about love. That's what the indigenous culture is about. It's about sharing and about forgiveness and about going for just honoring every aspect of life. The earth is its temple. And if you want to get information from the stones and the trees or whatnot, you've got to speak to them in that realm that they understand and can communicate. Like with stones, you got to speak real slow because they will tell you things, okay? They will tell you things. And the indigenous people had so much respect that they didn't want to cut down trees necessarily, because those are the trees are lungs for us to breathe. And so quite often in North and South America, cottonwood trees. And when the people were traveling in one place to another, they would look for cottonwood trees because cottonwood trees grew next to water. So they would have plenty of water. But something that's unique about cottonwood trees is they shed their limbs. So the tribe would set at that particular location, and then when all the wood was taken care of that the Mother Nature gave to them, then they'd move to another grove in honor and respect. And the way I was taught, a multitude of different elders throughout, indigenous elders, is that you don't dig into the earth. And this thing about gold and this stuff, well, if the gold comes up into the streams, then Mother Earth has given it to you. But you go digging to in their mind, that's rape. You're raping the earth. And so when they do their sacred ceremonies, such as the sweat lodge ceremony in Sweden and Norwegian, it's saunas. Okay, but all these ceremonies in prayer are practiced around the world, but they all interpret and utilize prayer in a different manner than each other. But indigenous people, they believe that prayer is every breath you take. That is a prayer. And so you need to really be conscious of your thoughts and your feelings, because that's what you're putting out. Whether your words say it or not, it's going to exhibit what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And so the consciousness of prayer is just important. So I just wanted to compliment this whole program because it's unbelievable. But I want to close with one thing. We talked about Mother Earth. Yeah, it's true. But we also, the indigenous people, honor Father Sky. And what is so interesting is the movement of the air around the earth is dictated by what the earth is doing. And so as the matriarchals get more influence, you're going to feel more peace, because women don't have any ego. They're only practical. And the earth is the same way. And so the air follows the promptings of whatever the earth is telling it to do. Anyway, I just wanted to share those items. This was an incredible program. Incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Jenkins, are you wanting to wait till the end, or do you want to come in right now?
I think now is a good time. Thank you very much, Chief James Mooney, for your profound affirmation and insights. And thank you, Dr. Selover and Dr. Berg. I'm so glad we put this program together. I was feeling so inspired from the Echo Fair that I attended the Saturday before last in Washington. And I was just really, truly amazed at the spirit of the whole experience there, where all the people working on ecology were working together to show different things to love Mother Earth, and also to, honor the life creation, which is a living creation. So that really inspired me. And that's why I wanted to even continue. I was inspired by the program 2 weeks ago also. It was really an outstanding program that Dr. Selover and Dr. Berg put on. And that also touched me. And I just feel like our founder, Mother Moon, is really, really interested in bringing life and balance to creation and humanity together. So everything James said was really deeply true and inspiring. And also Professor Lai, I was shocked. I didn't know what the presentation would be. I had no idea. But I just want to thank you for that. And it resonates also with religious teachings and the scriptures. Like when the disciples started praising Jesus and John, it was the Pharisees came out and said to Jesus, "Why don't you rebuke them for praising you as the king?" And Jesus said, if they didn't say something, even the rocks would cry out. And that's true. That's why our founders, Father and Mother Moon, were both extremely sensitive about this. The creation will tell you where it's safe to go. The creation will tell you even the vibration of the airplane itself is living, and it can tell you whether that plane is going to be safe or not. And that's why I love this verse in Romans chapter 8, 19 and on. It's a profound experience here because it resonates with both sides. But Romans chapter 8:19, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, like man. And that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. In other words, when mankind becomes truly harmonized and balanced and understands the creator and also understands the air and the earth, then the creation will follow and come into harmony. Right now, there's no harmony because of our own imbalance. We were meant to have dominion over creation. Not to be external owners of plots of land. I really thought that was also interesting too. The creation is alive. It's totally alive. When you love the flowers, it's always scientifically been proven that if you speak kind words to the flowers and love them with your heart and water them that way, opposed to somebody saying negative words and still giving the same water, there's a big difference between the plant's growth. This is real. So I think this is more fundamental to bringing harmony and balance to our creation and protecting the earth and our future, starting with us with this understanding. That's a much better place to start than in terms of all kinds of mechanical adjustments that people are calling for, which may or may not be necessary one way or the other. A fascinating thing today. I really appreciate Professor Lai and his depth of understanding of different religions and different histories and traditions, and how it is natural, that we become stewards of the earth, but we can't be stewards if we're sick ourselves. We can't heal the earth if we're sick. And that's really the fundamentals of what we're addressing even today. But it starts with education and love. So I really appreciate this program. I want to see many more of these. Maybe every week we should have a program. We may have to give more support to Dr. Bergen and Dr. Selover, but I think we could do every week. And I'd like to have James host a program on this also. I think we should explore it much more, because I was profoundly touched by James when Wendy Stovall brought me to Utah. We were going to honor Senator Orrin Hatch, who had just transitioned to the next world. And we had time in the morning, and I was able to have a beautiful breakfast time with James. And I knew from that moment, I could feel the energy of love and truth harmonize. And he was a friend of Senator Hatch's also. It was really a beautiful thing. So I feel like, thank you for this program. And let's go more in this direction, because this is what I got from the Echo Fair. And this is what I love about this Earth and I. Earth and I is founded by Mother Moon, this whole thing. The HJ, which Shojung means loyalty, and IFAS, International Foundation for the Unity of the Sciences. But this Earth and I is online, and they did a magazine for the Echo Fair. But I've just been amazed at how, everything in this is positive about the creation. It's positive how we're going to heal the creation, or how, by actually riding on a horse and properly caring for the horse has been proven to give tremendous healing power to people who are hurting internally, in terms of their spirit and their heart. I'm fascinated by this thing. So thank you, Dr. Selover. And, I'm really excited about this. This is why these associations are so important. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenkins, and thanks everyone for the contributions. I'm also very pleased and edified to realize that we are we are so connected for some historical reasons and mistakes and many things. We live as though we were disconnected. When I served as a professor at the University of Saskatchewan for a number of years, and there the indigenous traditions, the First Nations traditions, are much closer to the surface than they were in New Jersey, where I grew up. And I had to learn a lot, and I'm really grateful for that. All kinds of things about reconnection and some of the things that Chief James expressed as well. So this is a very important part of, not part even, the foundation for what it is that we're trying to do. There's one more thing. Thinking back about Dr. Lal's presentation, who, by the way, Dr. Lal is an active participant in the programs of HJIFAS. The way that his integrity shows up both on the scientific side and on the religious side, using two different symbol systems of language, but the heart kind of behind them really brings them together. So I'm very glad and thankful on behalf of IAAP and also to the whole of UPF. We want to wish everyone who's participating together grace and spirit and truth in life, and even in the holidays coming up. With that, I think we will close out now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Selover. I think Dr. Sunjin Moon will be so happy. She spoke at the Echo Fair, and it was so uplifting. I felt like a new day is dawning on our view of how to love and care for the creation. Really amazing.
Let me interrupt a minute. So that the standard thing is to close the video very soon, the taping process, but we can remain on. I noticed Madeline wanted to say something. We can remain if there are those who want to remain. Yes? Can we do that?
Right.
Okay.
As long as we let EJ know to keep us.
So he can stop taping us at any point. Each